The Newsmax headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, downtown at the New York Stock Exchange, still raging in the green this afternoon. Market up now about 400 points, 400 and change, just about the highs of the day. And the market is certainly sighing relief that we've postponed these tariffs until at least December. That's one bit of certainty they liked. And Bitcoin continues to crumble before our eyes. But the show does not, because we bring in one of our best guests, one of our dear friends, and Kevin McCollough joins us to talk about all the news of the day. And Kev, I mean,
John, I won't call you Fredo. I'm just saying right up front. We'll avoid that completely.
If you did, you wouldn't be the first.
You wouldn't be the first, and I wouldn't be insulted. I mean,
nor should you.
Fredo's like a cartoon cat. You know what I mean? It's
I thought that's
fictional.
what you put on fettuccine. That's what I always used.
Fettuccine Alfredo.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, not bad. From an Irish guy?
Absolutely.
That's it's
I'm
not
working with limited material. Let's say
no, clearly. He's frequently seen on Fox News. Many times he's outnumbered because he's the one lucky guy with Harris Faulkner and a team of ladies over there. But your insights are always welcome here, and I want to thank you. You can hear him every day in New York on AM 970, The Answer, and all around the country on Saturdays on different stations. But Kev, I wanted to talk to you today about this new wrinkle, this executive action that is a change, or it's in effect now with our immigration policy, that if you're on public assistance, you can't get a green card. And I think that's pretty good, because if you're living off the fat of the land, then you're not doing it. It's not part of the meritocracy, in my view.
Isn't this just a commitment by Trump to be where he's always been on immigration? So he's championed merit-based since he started campaigning, and he said we need skills. Let's make sure that we're bringing and attracting people that bring skill level to them. If you're coming here with the intention to be on public assistance, you by definition are not bringing skill sets. So I think that if you're going to have a merit-based immigration, which I think most Americans would look at and say that's very reasonable, this is an obvious next step to incentivizing that behavior.
Somebody, I'm not going to even say the race or nation of origin about this group of people, but I will say, some friends of mine, we were talking about this weekend, and they were talking about how there's a few different groups of people who are basically coming to America as families and then divorcing in America, and then the wife goes out and claims to be a single mom and gets all these benefits from the government, and in fact they're still functionally married. So people are working the system at this point.
Well, there's fraud in whatever ethnic group that is. There's fraud with many different people groups coming from many different nations, and you can identify different patterns of behavior, be they from the Middle East or Europe or South America. Where they're coming from sometimes influences that, but there's no doubt that people have gained it, and at the expense of American security and safety. You add all the border crisis of this year, and you've got additional burden that we've not been able to handle so far.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing to me, Kevin, and I was all in favor of this regulation or this change where people on public assistance shouldn't be able to remain in the country as non-citizens. And I would think that the people that would be cheering loudest would be those that are legal immigrants, number one, and those that are champions of working class American citizens. I think there's a reason that until very recently, Bernie Sanders was not an open borders guy at all, because he recognizes that the people that get hurt the most by immigration, both illegal and legal, are the people that are on the lower end of the socioeconomic sphere, because it's much easier to replace an uneducated construction worker or an uneducated service worker with somebody that's in the country illegally. So to say that, hey, wait a minute, if you're going to come here and be a burden on the taxpayers, we don't want to let you stay here legally, I don't think that's a crazy position.
Well, especially in this economy. I mean, it would be one thing if we had so many jobs that we couldn't fill them, and we needed a new workforce to be brought in. You could make an argument under certain economic conditions there may be a need to relax that. But at this point in time, we've got more jobs than people of necessary means, and we have fewer workers than some of the more high-skilled jobs are needed. And so we actually need people with skill sets. That's our biggest need in the immigration space. as you pointed out, the construction trades, the service trades, they are well stocked, and we have plenty. And there's just no need to have to roll back the legal standard for what is required for you to commit to our country in order to get to be a citizen living in our country. That is fundamentally, we've always believed you contribute something if you become an American.
The other change that President Trump is getting some grief from a lot of different quarters today has to do with the rollback of Obama-era environmental regulations. There was criticism of
that's so
Obama
shocking.
and Trump for doing this not legislatively, but just on their own through these agencies. Tell me how you think this is going to play politically and on the merits.
Well, so first of all, EPA regulations were the place where the Obama administration committed the greatest abuses of his administration in terms of executive action. I actually did a 15-page white paper for a think tank on this. There were almost 4,700 regulations that were effective through the EPA environmentally that never saw the light of day for a vote by the citizens or our representatives. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump has every right to roll back as many of those as he possibly can, which he's done a good job of, actually, in the first couple of years.
And if Congress wants these regulations in place,
make them law.
They should pass a law.
Absolutely, and let the voters decide if they like that action or not.
Yeah.
Can we do like a referendum or something? Do we have any
Unfortunately,
capacity?
there's no federal referendum. There was a presidential candidate that was proposing that, Mike Gravel. Unfortunately, he's dropped down.
Can we talk to you about guns in our final 3 minutes here? A lot of debate back and forth, but even some of my viewers yesterday were emailing us that it's all cliche. Mental health, semi-automatic, smaller magazine. Is there something that you could see? You talk to people across the whole country that both Republicans and Democrats could come together on as a starting point to say, hey, we recognize this?
I think there's a couple of things that have been on the table for a while. I don't think most NRA members are opposed to background checks. That's why I think all but 12 states you've got some form of background checks now in effect. That just makes sense. Obviously, the mental health stuff, we should not be letting crazy people, mentally disturbed people, people that are not equal, their equilibrium's off, we should not be giving them the opportunity to have guns. I'm also thoroughly against anything that says law-abiding people with no track record get to have their guns taken away. If you put down some of the starting blocks, then maybe you can have some compromises that left and right come together on. But if the two sides are still attacking each other at those beginning spots, you're not going to ever have the ability to find compromise. And here's the problem: they keep throwing this number out about what European nations and others are doing by way of gun violence and deaths by homicide by guns. None of those countries have 393 million guns in circulation. I mean, in terms of population, you're just up against a bigger issue here than any place else on planet Earth.
Right. There's not that many guns probably in the world as we have here.
If you're going to ban guns because of the homicide rate, you got to ban cars and accidents in hospitals, because accident in hospitals are about 25 times the death rate as a gun homicide.
30 seconds, Kevin. We're seeing a lot of conservative media pundits, including Sean Hannity, defend Chris Cuomo. Even Matthew Mary, who's not necessarily a CNN viewer, he said, look, it's not right that they bothered the guy when he was there with his daughter. What's your take on it?
I was outraged at what happened to Sarah Huckabee in the Red Robin. I was very displeased that a Trump supporter would have pulled this last night. My feeling is the morality weighs on the person that started the altercation, which was clearly someone who was a provocateur trying to make news.
Well, Kev, you're a commentator, like we are. We have opinions. If people shout stuff in the street, I mean, you got to have thick enough skin to take it.
Okay, and you're remembering that, so Fredo is the slur for the younger brother, and Chris has already been dumped on by Andrew multiple times across his time.
It's a perfect, to me, it's a perfect
kind of
term.
is the dumb guy in our family. It's whatever.
I was thinking,
let it roll off your back.
You remember the old cartoon Scooby-Doo? Chris Cuomo, if Fredo doesn't work, I was thinking he's like Scrappy.
Yeah.
Remember little Scrappy 2? The other guy, maybe we'll call him Scrappy. He's the Scrappy Cuomo from now on. Check out Kevin McCollough. He's on AM 970, heard around the country, and also all the time on Fox News, but whenever you need him, right here on Liquid Lunch. Kev, thank you. Back right after this.